Now, the French President Emmanuel Macron is marking the 175th anniversary of the abolition of slavery. This year, France is paying tribute to Franco-Haitian General Toussaint Louverture. He was imprisoned by Napoleon Bonaparte until his death in 1803 after being accused for high treason.
The promises of the age of the Enlightenment and the Revolution. He felt that the revolution should serve all humankind, and the revolt of the slaves, which he was an integral part of, led towards freedom. He was called the Black Spartacus. He fought for 3 long years against everyone who was against or opposed to the freedom of his people. A revolutionary, he didn't just content himself with taking one Bastille like we did in France, but he brought down the fort of Santo Domingo and other forts that were protecting the unjust order of slavery. He worked with he worked on the lines of Olympe de Gouges, Robespierre, Danton, and all of these people, like Toussaint Louverture, thought that it was important to bring the French Republic to come to the abolition of slavery. This happened on the 4th of February.
Toussaint Louverture s'efforça de donner vie à la Déclaration des droits de l'homme et du
in
citoyen,
1848.
celle qui avait offert à tous la liberté, l'égalité, la
The
fraternité.
French Revolution brought about
Celle qui mettait
equality,
fin à
fraternity,
l'assignation par la naissance, la condition sociale, la religion ou la couleur de peau. Cette déclaration,
and later we had to have a revolution
n'a jamais cessé d'être
about the color of skin, as we find in the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen in
Voilà
1789.
pourquoi, contre les autres chefs de la révolte des esclaves, il prit le parti
And Toussaint
de la
Louverture
révolution. Oui,
was
la
faithful to the
révolution plutôt que
revolution
l'insurrection.
rather than
La liberté
insurrection, and thus
plutôt que la
he
destruction.
was in opposition with some
L'ordre
other members of the anti-slavery revolt. He
Après
believed in
1794, une fois
order
obtenue
over
l'abolition
chaos.
de l'esclavage,
And once
Toussaint Louverture jugea que la grande révolution,
the
sa
abolition of
révolution créole
slavery
était terminée.
was
Il
achieved,
devait la fixer aux principes qu'il avait
he felt
commencés.
that it was important to continue to pursue the objectives that he had pursued, that is to
de celui qui vient des principes,
look at the
combattre le
movement
premier
of
avec vigueur
principles.
et affermir le second par l'ordre.
The principles had to be
C'est le génie
affirmed
des
through
révolutionnaires, disait Hugo.
order, and this was what
Révolutionnaire
Victor
d'exception,
Hugo
Toussaint
called
Louverture
the
considérait,
genius of
lui
revolution.
aussi, que seul l'ordre pouvait maintenir la liberté,
He believed
la
that order was
prospérité
necessary to retain freedom, prosperity, and public good. Military discipline was part of that principle as well. And he thought it was important that all of the different parts of society be represented in the military forces. Everyone had to serve with
L'ordre des lois,
honesty and humility,
les intérêts et l'arbitraire.
that laws would prevent
Dans les écoles,
the arbitrary,
Toussaint Louverture
that
bâtissait
order was necessary to
le
build
progrès
schools.
grâce à l'hygiène qu'il
This
promouvait, à
would
l'enseignement et aux arts
enable
qu'il
education, culture,
C'est
and good
l'ordre
health.
qui garantit la liberté.
Order
L'ordre
guarantees
marié
freedom.
à la liberté
Order
effective
and
qui seule
freedom
le rend légitime,
make
même de
order
la République.
legitimate, and that is the very
Car Toussaint Louverture
fundamental of the Republic.
fut un républicain
Toussaint
par la
Louverture
pensée,
was a Republican
par les
in
armes.
thought and
Il ne combattait
by the
la
taking
France
up of
que
arms.
lorsque l'esprit de la République en était absent.
And when the
trahi.
spirit of the
Et
Republic
quand
was
enfin la
absent
France
from
s'avança
from
pour porter
France,
avec sincérité les idéaux
they
des Lumières sous le
betrayed
visage
Toussaint
du général
Louverture,
Lavaux, Toussaint Louverture employa toute son habileté et son ardeur pour la défendre.
who
Au nom de cet idéal,
deployed
de
all of his ardor to
1794 à
defend
1800, il libéra
the
Saint-Domingue de toutes les forces étrangères.
revolution. He was able to free Santo Domingo
Il était
from
absolument français,
anti-revolutionary and
pleinement
reactionary forces. He always
Soldat
felt
de la
himself to be
France
fully
république, comme il
French
le
and
placardait
Republican,
sur les murs de
and he
Saint-Marc
always
d'Évenaille.
talked about
Il
the
demeura
French
fidèle à ses
Republic
convictions
and his citizenship as a French person, and he maintained these
devoir se
principles
séparer du destin
up until
de la
his
France.
tragic destiny.
En 1802,
In 1802,
Bonaparte, voulant rétablir l'esclavage à
Bonaparte
Saint-Domingue,
wanted to reestablish
dépêcha 40 000 de ses
slavery
meilleurs
in
hommes.
Santo Domingo, and he sent
Toussaint
out many of his
Louverture
best
comprit
men
alors qu'il était perdu.
to fight there, and Toussaint Louverture understood that
Presque
all
tous
was
ses
lost
généraux
for
et
him.
amis le trahirent,
Most of his
un par un.
generals betrayed him one after the
Il
other,
combattit pourtant jusqu'au
and
bout.
yet he continued to fight up until the
Assiégé
end.
avec 1500
Under
de
siege,
ses frères d'armes dans la
with
citadelle de Crête-à-Pierrot,
1,500 of
il
his
résista pendant
comrades,
des jours.
he resisted for 2 days where there were 12,000 men from the French consul. They were condemned. The soldiers under Toussaint Louverture were singing the Marseillaise, as the French soldiers were there to reestablish slavery. This was a terrible betrayal of the spirit of the French Republic. Yes, Toussaint Louverture was a Republican. He was a leader of the army, and he was a statesman. And he showed to anyone who doubted that these despised slaves, who were considered as less than human beings, could actually be stronger than the soldiers of the most powerful nations of Europe. The color of our skin does not limit our bravery, he said. Toussaint Louverture always stayed true to his goals for humankind. He provided amnesty, he sought agreements, he worked with his rivals. He was always defending the rights of both the white people and the black people in Santo Domingo, the rights of everyone. Whether people were white or black made little difference to him, because what was important to him was the person's qualities, not the color of the person's skin. He wanted to create a new nation founded on progress, fraternity, freedom, a universal republic, indeed. And for this, Toussaint Louverture is a hero. Talleyrand said that men have different statures. You have to see them at work. And Toussaint Louverture is a part of our collective memory, and he has a great stature, which will never be diminished. He is a universal example for all of us, and he belongs to the whole world, not just France. He inspired American abolitionists, he inspired anti-colonial struggles. He was like a sun, a ray of sunshine for revolutionary and emancipatory movements. Stendhal said about Bonaparte that this general had just taught the world that Caesar or Alexander had a successor. Walking through the streets of France, Toussaint Louverture also became a great man of history, because he was able to bring the people of Santo Domingo together. He was the precursor of the Haitian Republic, and that is how we see him today, through the Haitian diaspora and through the work of historians and authors and artists who have considered Toussaint Louverture. The aspiration of people to become a free and independent nation and a sovereign nation is something that will always break through and will defeat the armies of invasion and occupation. Thus, Toussaint Breda became Toussaint Louverture. Breda was the name of the plantation, and that was how slaves usually named themselves. Toussaint Breda became Toussaint Louverture through his combat that he organized by riding his horse around the country, by sleeping little. He had incredible energy. He seemed almost magical in his capacity to be everywhere, to capture cities. He was open, and that's the meaning of the word ouverture. This name, ouverture, this was something that the jailers at the Chateau de Joux were told not to use. He was betrayed, he was separated from his family, he was kept in a cold place, alone, and he was called Toussaint only, not Ouverture. And the fact of just pronouncing the whole of his name, Toussaint Louverture, has brought about a kind of healing for the French betrayal. It is important that we keep him deep in our memories, that we cherish him, and this is why the name Ouverture was given as of the 1920s and up and through the 1960s. It was given to a name and then to Elysée. It will always be associated to the Chateau de Joux. It is really in the middle of the whole abolitionist movement throughout France, throughout other countries as well. And we remember Abbé Grégoire as well in this combat. Toussaint Louverture and is associated with Victor Chaudelaire, who on the 27th of April, 1848, thanks to the Second Republic, was able to vote the proclamation of the abolition of slavery, the triumph of this great man, Toussaint Louverture, posthumously. And today, the 27th of April, this anniversary day, we would like to pay tribute to all these illuminaries, all those who continue to perpetuate the work of Toussaint Louverture. Yes, the roads toward abolition all converge here at Château de Joux, in this small cell in the Jura that Aimé Césaire wrote a poem about, and he dedicated it to the memory of Toussaint Louverture, where he said it was sad to have countries where there were no memorials. But now our country does have memorials. Thanks to the many volunteers and many elected authorities, many historians and specialists who have worked on the list of freed slaves after 1848 and who have provided access to these historical archives, we have been able to establish a memorial to the victims of slavery. This is a new memorial paying tribute to them. And the foundation, which is now in the Hôtel de la Marine, where Choleseau prepared the abolition proclamation, has been now turned into a center for research and education. This is another living memorial. Jean-Marc Ayrault, who is president of this memorial, has been preserving the memory of former slaves and of the abolition movement, and we would like to thank him for that. So these memories, this road, this path that enables us to remember our history and be connected with us, is woven into our landscape. And yet, there is still work to be done. This is the spirit of the Republic that fights against prejudices, against reactionary movements. We haven't yet finished with slavery, with exploitation of people, with asservissement. We must continue along this road of memory and history as well. And today, France pays tribute to the men and women of Haiti. Ladies and gentlemen, when he was asked about his chances for success and where two kingdoms were chasing after him, several navies, 3 nations, where he was betrayed by spies, Toussaint Louverture continued to talk about his confidence. He said, slowly go far. That means you have to take the time to educate people, to create dialogue, but you have to aim high as well. Let us espouse this philosophy. I'd like to thank you very much. Long live the Republic, long live France.